Welcome to Easy English by Eddie Singh, and today we are going to do class 10 literature, the poem Snake by D.H.Lawrence. Let me introduce the poem. The poem Snake, written by D.H.Lawrence, has a theme that everything in the nature is pious and sacred. Though a snake symbolically looks like an evil and is often a subject of hatred for mankind. But the poet's prudence tells that even the snake is a part of nature and he should be loved by mankind. The poet believes that we should always respect the object of nature and seeks pleasure in its existence. The poet also seeks religious atonement for the pretty creature of nature. The message in this poem is that even a snake is a part of forces of nature. Though it represents the forces of darkness, brutality, and ignorance, yet it has got some positivity. It is a beautiful creature of nature. Therefore, human beings should not be cruel and should not hate it. Rather, he should love it as any other object of nature. The curative and institutive aspect of the poem is that, however dominant man must be, nature has its own course, and therefore coexistence with nature is the message for this poem. The poet highlights and explores the relationship between human and one of the most feared reptiles on the earth, a venomous snake. The poet has pointed out that even a very venomous and ugly creature like a snake can be an object of love because it is a part of nature. The narrator concludes that a snake, the reptile, seems to him like a god, and it is the king of his own exile, come from the earth like a beautiful creature. The collective aspect of the poem is that we should love nature in whatever shape it comes. Now we will go for line by line explanation. Please read out the lines.
The snake trying. The snake trying to escape the pursuing stick with sudden curvings thing. Long body. How beautiful and graceful are his shapes.
A snake came to the poet's trough to drink water as it was thirsty. The poet also wanted to have a pitcher full of water. He found this snake at his water trough. As it was very hot, the poet was in his loose trousers. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
He glides through the water away from the stroke. Oh, let him go over the water into the reeds to hide without hurt. Small and green, he is harmless even to children. Along the sand, he lay until observed and chased away, and now he vanishes in the ripples among the green, slim reeds.
I'm sure you are not reading the poem. The poem is here. Yes, from this line. Read once again the first four lines.
A snake came to my water trough on a hot, hot day, and I am in pajamas for the heat
Yes.
to drink there.
A snake came to the poet's water trough to drink water as it was thirsty. It was a very hot day, so the poet was in his loose trousers. Next three lines.
In the deep, strange, scented shade of the great dark crop tree, I came down the steps with my pitcher and must stand and wait, for there he was at the trough before me.
Just wait. Who came as, listen, all of you, who came as the first one? The poet came to the water trough. Listen, Prince, the poet came to the water trough as the first comer. The second comer was the snake came as a first comer. First turn was of the snake. The snake came before the poet. So the poet said, I must stand and wait, because who was the first comer to his water drop? The snake. So he gave equal consideration to the snake. He didn't consider him as a creature, he considered him as a guest. So, having considered the snake as a guest of honor, he allowed him to drink water first, and he is wait. He just said that he would wait for the snake to finish drinking water, then he will go and fill his pitcher. The poet was in his pajama because it was a very hot day in Sicily in July. July is being considered as the hottest month in Sicily, that is in Italy. So the poet was in his loose trouser, and the poet must wait and watch because the snake was before him. He came next, the snake came first. So he gave equal consideration to the presence of the snake and said that he would wait for the snake to finish drinking water, then he will fill his pitcher with water. Go ahead.
He reached down from a fissure in the earth, wall in the gloom, and trailed his yellow-brown slackness soft-bellied down over the edge of the stone trough, and rested his throat upon the stone bottom. And where the water had dripped from the tap, in a small clearness, he sipped with his straight mouth, softly drank through his straight gums into his slack long body, silently. Someone was before.
Wait. The snake came out of a hole in the earth wall. The snake came out of a crack. Listen, the snake came out of a crack. Prince, where did the snake come? The snake came from a hole in the earth wall, from a crevice. Crevice means a hole. Where did the snake come from? The snake came from a crack, a small hole in the earth wall, and it crept out just from the hole to the earth. The snake came out from the crack to the earth near his water trough. Near his
water trough.
The poet described the snake as a yellowed brown with soft belly. Belly means stomach. So how was the snake described by the poet? Yellow brown. Color was yellow brown with soft belly, lying on the surface of the trough, a straight gums, limp long body. The snake drinks water, silently from the trough. The snake came from a small crack in the earth wall, and it came just on near the water trough, and it was just like a long body, soft belly, yellow brown color, and it lie down on the surface of the earth, reaching to the water trough. Reaching to the
water trough.
Next line, please.
Someone was before me at my water trough, and I like a second comma waiting. He lifted his head from his drinking, as cattle do, and looked at me vaguely, as drinking cattle do, and flickered his two-forked tongue from his lips.
The snake came first. Who came first? Tell me.
Snake came first.
And the poet came next. So at the second comma, the second turn was of the poet. The poet decided to wait for his chance. Ask why, sir?
Why, sir?
Because the poet gave equal consideration to the presence of the snake. He didn't consider him as a creature. He considered him as a guest.
Yes.
So the poet allowed the snake to drink water, and then he decided that he will drink water second, not the first. So he waited for his chance. Who waited for his chance?
He waited for it.
Who do you think came first? Tell me. The
the
poet
snake
came
came
first
first.
or the snake came first?
The snake came first.
So, naturally, as the first comer, the snake has every right to drink water. So, the poet allowed him to drink water. Now, the snake raised his head like a cattle. While drinking water, the snake lifted his head just like a cattle while drinking water does. A cattle also, raises the head and watches the people. In the same way, the snake lifted his head and saw the poet. He saw that the poet was present, but he didn't mind. He started drinking water. Started drinking
Water.
Next, please. Yes, read out.
And mused a moment, and stopped and drank a little more, being earth brown, earth golden from the burning bowels of the earth.
The poet compares the snake to a cattle. The snake lifts his head, looks at the man, flicks its tongue, thinks a moment, and then again starts drinking water. the snake behaves like a cattle. It is just like a cattle drinking water. Now, what happens after that? The snake lifts his head and looks towards the poet and again starts drinking water. Starts drinking water. Then what happens? Yes, come on.
On the day of Sicilian July, with Etna smoking, the voice of my education said to me, he must be killed, for in Sicilia the black snakes are innocent, the gold and venomous.
Yeah, listen. Now, this is a golden brown snake. The color of the snake is golden brown. Listen now. Etna is a volcano. In Sicily, July is the hottest month. Which month is the hottest month in
July.
Sicily? Sicily is in Italy. So in Sicily is a place in Italy. July being the hottest month, Etna, the volcano, is giving out hot air. What is Etna giving out? A volcano is giving out hot water. And therefore, what is happening? It is extremely hot. Even the snake is thirsty. You can imagine what the heat is there. So, the heat of the sun, the scorching heat of the sun is intensifying the atmosphere, the air. And as the Etna, the volcano in Sicily, is giving out hot air, it is really unbearable. Then you are asked, sir, what happens? The billowing air, the hot air coming out of Etna is making the heat intense and unbearable. Intense and unbearable. And then you ask, sir, what happens? Then what happened? The poet has always been taught that golden brown snakes are poisonous and black snakes are harmless. What is the poet's voice of education? He has been made to believe, say like that. The poet has been made to believe that black colored snakes in Sicily are harmless. But the golden brown are poisonous or venomous. And that's the voice of education he has been taught right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. So according to his prudence and voice of education, he believes that golden brown color snakes are poisonous and hence they should be killed. They should be killed. And that is the reason why he thinks of killing the snake. Killing the snake. Go ahead. Next line.
And voices in me said, if you were a man, you'd take a stick and break him now and finish him off.
Yeah, the voices in him means his own voice, his own prudence, you may call it. The poet's prudence suggests him or inspires him to kill this snake. It is that take a stick and hit this snake, because as for the prudence of the poet, say like that, as for the prudence of the poet,
As per the prudence of
as
the
for
poet,
the intelligence and knowledge of the poet,
as per the intelligence
such golden brown snakes
such golden brown snakes
must be killed.
must be killed.
And therefore the poet just thinks that he should take a log, wood, and throw on the snake. Throw on the and break him in two parts. Break him into
parts.
Go ahead, please.
But must I confess how I liked him? How glad I was he had come like a guest in quiet to drink at my water drop, and depart peaceful, pacified and thankless into the burning boils of the earth.
Now the poet confesses that. Say like that. The poet confesses that he likes the snake. And that's the reason why. Say like that. The poet confesses that he likes the snake. And that's the reason why he doesn't want to harm him. Though his instinct says he should hit on the snake. But as he is admiring the snake, as he is impressed by the beauty of the snake, beauty of the nature, that doesn't allow him to hit the snake. Understand? So there is a contrasting idea coming into his mind. At one hand, he is being asked by the voice of education to hit the snake and kill him. On the contrary, his love for nature, his admiration for nature doesn't allow him to do so. Am I right?
Yes,
So
sir.
on the one hand, his voice of education asks him to hit the snake and kill the snake. But on the other hand, his love and admiration for the nature doesn't allow him to do so. So he's in a dilemma what to do. Dilemma? What to do? Yes. Go ahead.
Was it cowardice that I dared not kill him? Was it perversity that I longed to talk to him? Was it humility to feel so honored? I felt so honored.
Yeah, the poet now makes an introspection. He's examining himself by of his action. The poet is examining himself with the action. He said that, well, he didn't kill the snake. Was it an act of cowardice? Really, it was not brave? Was it really a coward that he didn't kill the snake? And then, if it was out of perversity, he didn't do so. He is examining, was it really a cowardice act that he didn't kill the snake, or was it an act of perversity? He wonders if the snake would leave him quietly, contented after drinking water, as the snake, having taken water, departs very soon without giving him any thanks. So quite thanklessly, the snake disappears from there after drinking water. Therefore, he is little bit surprised, and annoyed also, that how has the snake drank his water and disappeared without giving him thanks. So his anticipation has been completely wrong. He anticipated that the snake is going to thank him for his, guest of honor. But the snake didn't do so. Having taken water, the snake is now going into his hole once again, into the crack. And therefore, the poet feels humiliated. Humiliated. Go ahead, please.
And yet those voices, if you were not afraid, you would kill him. And truly I was afraid. I was most afraid. But even so, honored still more, that he should seek my hospitality from out the dark door of the secret earth.
Yeah, listen. Now the poet makes a further introspection. He says, had he really been afraid of the snake, certainly he would not kill. So he said that, well, I was really afraid of the snake. I didn't kill the snake because I was afraid. But more than afraid, I was honored. Why was he honored? Because a snake had visited at his water trough to take water. The snake has paid a visit to his water trough, so he feels more honored than he is being frightened. So more than frightened, say like that. More than frightened, the poet feels greatly honored that the snake had sought his hospitality. And that's the reason why it doesn't care about what the people say. Let the people say that he was a coward, he was afraid. He will agree. But he didn't kill the snake because he felt honored that the snake-like guest has paid a visit to his water trough. And sought hospitality. Go ahead.
He drank enough and lifted his head, dreamily as one who has drunken, and flickered his tongue like a forked knife on the air, so black.
Yeah. Now, how was the snake drinking water? He just had a two-forked mouth. So he just opened his tongue, kept his tongue, over the surface and sipped water. So the way he was, very minutely the poet was observing, he was sipping water through his two-forked tongue. Say like that. He was sipping water through his two-forked tongue. Yes. Go ahead, Manish. Go ahead.
Seeming to lick his lips, and looked around like a god, unseeing into the air, and slowly turned his head, and slowly, very slowly, as if thrice a dream, proceeded to draw his slow length curving round, and climb again the broken bank of my wall face.
Yeah, when the snake finished drinking water, he kept his head little up, then he got satisfied. He kept his tongue seemingly licking it to the water, and then the snake had slowly disappeared into his own crack, climbing back to his crack. The snake puts his head into the hideous dark earth, into the wall, and slowly glided into it. He looks like a god. While he is drinking water and disappearing into the hole, how does he look like? He looks like a god. Looks like a god. The poet gives him extra, appearance. He said that, well, the snake while drinking water looks like a god. Go ahead, Manish.
And as he put his head into that dreadful hole, and as he slowly drew up, snake easing his shoulders and entered farther, a sort of horror, a sort of protest against his withdrawing into that horrid black hole.
Yeah, the poet experiences two contrasting feelings. Some sort of horror, fear. At the same time, a sort of, Manish, read the second line. A sort of horror,
protest against.
The poet protested at his sudden disappearance, that how could the snake disappear from there after drinking water without giving him thanks, giving him
Thanks.
So the snake's sudden disappearance is having a mixed feeling. The poet expresses a mixed feeling, some sort of horror, some sort of protest. Why does the poet protest his sudden disappearance, you ask? Sir, why?
Why?
Just
Why, sir?
because the snake had disappeared without giving him thanks. How could the guest not give thanks to the, host? The poet was the host. He allowed him to drink water. Am I right?
Yes,
He
sir.
didn't fill the pitcher full of water. He allowed him to drink water. But the snake had disappeared from there, having taken water without giving him thanks. Giving him
Thanks.
Therefore, the poet is protesting his sudden disappearance. At the same time, there is a feeling of little horror, fear in his mind. Because the most, venomous snake has paid a visit to his water trough. He's a water trough. So he was a little bit horrified. But yes, Manish, next line.
Deliberating, going into the blackness and slowly drawing himself after, overcame me now his back was turned. I looked round, I put down my pitcher, I picked up a clumsy log and threw it at the water trough with a clatter.
Yeah, the poet finally took a piece of log, and threw upon the snake. Just, unwillingly. He was not willing to harm the snake, but just as a formality, he took a piece of log and threw on the snake, just to make him disappear. It was in annoyance. He immediately disappeared, and while disappearing, the poet just threw a log upon the snake. Perhaps the poet hated his sudden disappearance. And that is the reason why he just threw a piece of log upon him, and the snake just disappeared. Go ahead.
I think it did not hit him, but suddenly that part of him that was left behind convulsed in undignified haste, writhed like lightning, and was gone into the black hole.
Yes. Now, the poet just thinks that the log that he has thrown didn't harm the snake, but the part of the body that was outside the crack just convulsed and went into the hole very fast. That was the process of how the snake had disappeared. Now the poet thinks that it is just like an action which could be described as a hurried action. Go ahead, Manish, last 3 lines.
The earth lipped fissure in the wall front, at which in the intense still noon I stared with fascination, and immediately I regretted it.
Yeah, now the poet, regrets that he has lost the chance to appreciate this beautiful creature of nature. By throwing the log, the poet now regrets, he repents. Why does the poet repent? Because he has thrown the log just to make the snake disappear. And by doing so, say like that, he had lost a chance to admire, appreciate this beautiful creature of nature. Therefore, the poet regrets, and he wants to repent for his action. He wants to mend his action. He says, look what he says, that the king in exile, the snake was king of his own world, the exile we have made, the people on the earth have made him to live in exile. And therefore he blames himself not allowing this beautiful creature to remain in front of his eyes. So he lost the chance. And last 3 lines.
I thought how paltry, how vulgar, what a mean act. I despised myself and the voices of my accursed human education, and I thought of the albatross, and I wished he would come back, my snake.
Yeah, listen. Now the poet regrets at his action of throwing the log. He regrets that he had lost the chance. But one thing he says, that his action of throwing the log is just like the action of the ancient mariner killing the bird, albatross. He is comparing the same guilt that he is experiencing now. The guilt of throwing the log upon the snake is just being compared to the guilt of killing the bird as albatross by the ancient mariner. And he said, well, I have lost the chance to appreciate this Lord of earth, the king of his own exile, the king of his
own exile.
But he says, now he's apologizing. See like that. The poet is now apologizing, regretting, expressing apology for his mean action. This is what a mean action I've done by throwing the log upon this beautiful creature and making him run away. Oh, what a mean act! So like that. Oh, what a mean act it was. What a mean act it was just to throw the log. So he apologizes. And he feels lack of consideration. The poet undergoes a lack of consideration. So the poet undergoes lack of consideration for this beautiful creature snake. So at the end, the poet is at a regret. So like at the end, the poet is at regret. At the end, the poet is at regret because he believes that his mean act or his ordinary act of throwing the log has been disgraceful. So like that, has been disgraceful. Now 3-4 questions just before. Let us conclude. Now the last 2 lines, please. Last 2 lines.
Like a king in exile, uncrowned in the underworld, now due to be crowned again. And so I missed my chance with one of the lords of life, and I have something to expiate a pettiness.
Yeah, I have already told. Now he is calling the snake as king of exile, king of underworld, the earth. And he said that, well, the Lord of earth. I have lost the chance to praise and admire the Lord of earth. The Lord of earth. But I want to regret and amend. I just want to regret and apologize for my action. For my action. 3-4 questions, please. Question number 1. Why did the poet feel honored in spite of being afraid? Tell me, Prince, what makes the poet feel honored in spite of being afraid? The poet feels honored because the snake had paid a visit to his water trough. Yes, as a guest. So the poet is a lover of nature. He feels honored and gives equal consideration to the presence of the snake at his water trough. And that is the reason why, despite being afraid, he gives equal reverence, equal respect to the snake. And he thinks that it is a creation of God. So I must give equal consideration to the snake. And therefore he feels proud and honored. Question number 2. Explain the line, was it perversity that I longed to talk to him? The poet asked, himself if it was his pretense which actually compelled him to talk to the snake. How could a human being expect to talk to a snake? It was something unusual. So he just thought, was it really unusual that I was expecting to talk to the snake? The poet had mixed feeling about the snake's presence. He feels honored, but he wants to get rid of the poisonous snake. So there are 2 contradictory feelings at the same time. Tell me, what are they? At one hand, select it. At one hand, the poet feels honored. Having received the snake as his water trough. On the other hand, he wants to get rid of him. Because he has been taught throughout his life that golden brown snakes are poisonous. So he's afraid of that. And the last question of the day. Why does the poet call his sin a pittiness? Why does the poet call his sin means pap, a pittiness? The poet calls his deed of throwing a log upon the snake as pittiness because it was not at all necessary for the poet to throw the log upon the snake and make an intention to kill the snake. Am I right? Though he didn't want to kill the snake, but throwing the log upon the snake was a pittiness because it was not required. It was selected. The action of the poet, throwing the log upon the snake was totally undesired. Because the snake was harmless. Even though it was poisonous, it was not going to harm the poet. It was just paying a visit to drink water. So the poet's act of throwing a log upon the snake was simply because of his voice of education. That he has been taught by the voice of education that the snake of golden brown color are poisonous. Snakes are poisonous, hence they should be killed. That is the reason why the poet calls his action as pittiness. Thank you.